Ever thought about what separates a good team from a great team, or a healthy person from an unhealthy person, or a healthy, enjoyable marriage from one that's not, or great relationships or underperforming relationships? What we're going to cover in today's episode is what we believe to be the holy grail of maximizing someone's potential, and specifically maximizing the potential of the team. Welcome to the PioneerCast. I'm Dwayne Abels, founder and president of Pioneer IQ. We're in the middle of an episode, or a series rather, that we refer to as the 7 leadership indicators, talking through several indicators that will help you maximize the potential of the individuals on your team and your team. Again, joining me in the studio is Dr. Charlie Cartwright. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I got to tell you, I am really enjoying the series, partly because we're doing it together and we're getting to strategize and spend some time really working through how we want to communicate it, but also just coincidentally hearing all the stories from people who are jumping in and listening and following it. So again, we teed this up pretty stressful for us. We kind of set the bar high with the intro there. We really do believe this is the holy grail of relationships and maximizing potential and getting the results that someone can deliver, perform to. Doesn't matter if they're in baseball, football, or in business or in construction, but it's all about those results. Might be good for us just to quickly have you walk us through some of the previous indicators and then tee up today's indicator for what we want to talk through.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this graphic here as we chart our course. It starts with connection, and so many times as leaders, we want to jump to the end result, but we really need to establish that connection with the people that we're leading, and then that drives trust. And trust is so foundational to everything else that we're wanting to accomplish and achieve. Then from trust, we are impacting the thoughts of our team, and then in turn, those thoughts turn into beliefs, right? Because trust over time equals beliefs. Then beliefs manifest themselves in behaviors. Now, what happens when an individual practices a behavior for long enough? It becomes habit. And that's the holy grail. And so as leaders, it's about stacking habits, right? When we stack great habits with our team, great results ensue. Mm-hmm. We stack great habits with our marriage, a great marriage ensues. We stack great habits with our health plan, great health ensues, right? So it's about figuring out what those habits are and then stacking them. And then when we stack enough great habits, the outcome is ensured.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As you were talking, we didn't script this one, but this came to mind for me. It was something really powerful that happened when I was in college, played ball at a Christian college here in Kansas City. And we were playing in a fairly big game. It was like the 9th game of the year, kind of one of those where you're going to end up in the playoffs. And at the end of the game, we had lost the game. And at the end of the game, the coach circled all of us around. You got 90, 100 players circled around. And he's like, "Man, y'all did it. You did it." And everybody's like, what's this guy? What's going on? And he goes, "Congratulations. You played exactly how you practiced." And one of the guys, kind of a smart looking in the group, said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Everybody wants to be able to predict how they think they're going to play at the end of the weekend and at the end of the season." He said, "What it really boils down to, like you just said, is how we stacking up every single freaking day. What are our habits? What kind of outcomes are we getting in practice? Because it manifests itself in exactly how we're going to play." I'll never forget that. It's so odd having a head coach clap for a loss. And you just don't forget things like that. But I think the same exact thing happens on job sites, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's how we've been preparing, how we've been planning, how on time we've been with showing up to meetings turns into how we're performing on job sites.
Yeah, 100%. And those habits are so critical and crucial. You remember a few years ago here in Kansas City, we had that fire that burnt down neighborhoods and a huge complex because, again, a behavior didn't occur, right? And that behavior didn't occur because it wasn't a habit.
Yeah.
right? I believe it was a subcontractor.
Yeah, it was.
And I mean, I don't know how I didn't see the last number on how many millions of dollars that cost, but that was the biggest. I believe that was the biggest fire in the history of Kansas City, and how many fire stations from around the city were driving and trying to get that thing under control.
Yep.
And it came down to a behavior that didn't occur, right? Because the belief wasn't there, and it never got a chance to become a habit.
Yeah, honestly, right now we're in such a world where we're short on labor, we're short on talent, we're short on seems like everything related to people, and we really just don't seem to have enough time in the schedule, or we're not prioritizing time in our schedule to coach and develop and mentor and spend time grooming people. And I feel like executives are just constantly disappointed in people on their team. And I think at the end of the day, it's predictable. It's predictable. How are they acting on the small things? How are they consistently performing and interacting with people on your team? They're going to march out and do the same thing with a client or on a job site. It's very predictable. We're in the business of predictability. That's what you and I are all about, helping our executives be able to do. And it's predictable, being able to watch how people live, what they believe, and what they do every single day. And unfortunately, you can look at me and I've got things in my life that I haven't done well. I haven't built good nutrition habits, right? And that over time catches up with you, right? And you look at somebody that's very healthy, they're very disciplined and prioritize the things that are critical for them to live a healthy life and to be athletic and to have a great nutrition and blood counts and all things I don't really want to get into. But it's habits.
It really is. And when you talk to those folks, they're not thinking about it. It's what they do. It becomes who they are. And so that's so critical when it comes to habits. I remember talking to one executive, and part of his interview process was he was bringing someone in an interview. They were walking, okay, and he deliberately put a piece of paper on the floor in their path. He wanted to know if they're going to stop and pick it up and throw it away. He said, they step over it now, they're going to step over it when they work here, and I'm not hiring them.
Yeah, great point.
Huge, right? It's habits. What's their habits? I want to see what they are. I remember I'm kind of a closet NASCAR fan, okay? And and I always tease people about being NASCAR fans until I went to a race.
Yeah.
And I always tell people they haven't been to a race. So you go to the race, and when they drop the flag, if you're not hooked, leave, right? Yeah. Because you're going to get hooked the first time 43 cars go by at 200 miles an hour. Yeah. Nothing like it. But anyway, one of the leaders for it was Jimmy Johnson's team, and Chad Knaus was kind of the head brains behind the whole operation. And I remember listening to an interview with him, and one of the things he did was when he interviewed someone for their team, he said, I followed them to their car. He said, because I wanted to see, because we have to have attention to detail. So I want to see, do they show up to this interview with their car clean or not clean? I look inside. Are there papers strewn about? Is there trash and cups and food strewn about? Because if that's true, then they don't have the type of habits that it's going to take to be a part of this team. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a super great point. And kind of going back to the graphic and some of the steps that we've talked about, just to give you a real example, it really boils down to making sure that you're following through on these steps, that you're connecting personally with people, not just talking about projects, but talking about their families, talking about things that are important to them, not just things that are important to you. And that mutual care, trust turns into trust, right? And that consistently lived out provides a fertile ground for that person to understand your thoughts about your vision or your purpose or your why or how you want to impact people and projects and families and owners, right? And ultimately, after they allow those thoughts to seep in and they see you living out those thoughts, they then start to get in line with your beliefs, right? And ultimately, those beliefs turn into similar behaviors that everyone else on the team or in the organization has similarly. You can make it all the way to that point and still realize that someone is not delivering their fullest potential. And it truly gets down to, as a leader, taking a moment to look at what are they doing on a daily basis to prepare them mentally, physically, emotionally, seeing how they're responding and setting their self up for interacting, working, and delivering or performing in that particular environment. A lot of complicated things that frankly are pretty simple, right? When we sum it up like that. And a lot of times it's just leaders watching their teammates, looking at how they're habitually living, right? To be able to help point them in a different direction to get them to the next level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a really a relationship building process. And when we get the key leadership indicators right, we get those behaviors right, then those habits are there and we're golden with that person.
Yeah.
Because people tend to keep their habits
Yeah.
unless we act upon them. And in this way, we're acting upon them in a positive way to create those habits that'll serve them for the rest of their life. Because when as leaders, when our people establish those habits, it's going to serve them for the rest of their career, those solid habits, right? And it's the key to the kingdom.
It is, and we're bumping up against the Christmas week and a lot of things going on. And Charlie and I would just encourage you to think about what you're giving your life to. What is it that you're dedicating yourself to? And one of the things that we would encourage you to think about is dedicating specific time to being intentional about looking at the potential of each person on your team that directly reports to you, not the next layer, just the people who directly report to you, and think about their performance and if they're reaching their fullest potential, and spend time with them trying to figure out what habits they're putting in place that are preventing them from reaching their fullest potential. It's a really small, really, frankly, lightly disruptive thing that you're trying to implement with them that'll help them to see their potential. And maybe more importantly, they'll see how much you genuinely love them and want to see them have what's best for them. More than ever, people need this. They need direction. They need support. They need someone speaking into their life, but it does take a lot of courage. If we don't see you before, make sure you and your family have a very Merry Christmas, because 2022 is go time.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas.
Lead on. They need you.